April 2024 marks a significant milestone as South Africa celebrates 30 years of democracy and the Gauteng Provincial Legislature's existence. In 1994, legislatures were established to make laws for provinces and hold provincial governments accountable for service delivery and the use of public funds. Committees of the legislature consider laws, monitor the work of provincial government departments, and make recommendations about the work of departments, including their structure, functioning, and policies. Meet the chairperson.
This discussion is brought to you by the Gauteng Provincial Legislature. It's with a view of introducing you to chairpersons that are responsible for day-to-day workings of various committees of the provincial legislature. Chairperson of Oversight Committee on the Office of the Premier and the Legislature, which is also known as OCPOL, joins us. Honorable Ntombi Mekgwe, welcome.
Thank you very much, and thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure. Can we start by asking you to briefly tell us about yourself and the role you play?
My name is Ntombi Mekgwe. I come from an area called Tutuza in Ekurhuleni. If I were to tell you about my history, I think it's long. It can take 3 days or even more than that. But safe to say, I am a mother of 2, a son and a daughter, very handsome and beautiful. I am a grandmother as well of 3 beautiful, 2 sons as well as 1 daughter. So I grew up, I started being involved in the struggle at a very young age in COSAS. I went to the founder member of the Tutuza Youth Congress, which is today it's known as the ANC Youth League, but it started as a branch of the Tutuza Youth Congress that turned out to be South African Youth Congress. Then after 1990, after the unbanning, then it became the African National Congress. And I cut my governance teeth in local government when I was deployed for the first time in 1994. As we're preparing for the local government elections in South Africa, I became the mayor in Nigel, then later in Ekurhuleni, I became both the speaker as well as the mayor at a later stage, but I wasn't the executive at some stage. From 2014 to recently, I became the speaker of the Gauteng Provincial Legislature. Then now I am now the chair of OCPOL. That's in short.
Thank you very much. And for the benefit of Gauteng residents and other lay people, can you briefly outline the scope and responsibilities of the Oversight Committee on the Office of the Premier and the Legislature?
Okay. This committee is responsible to scrutinize the work that the executive led by the Premier is actually doing. Not only his office, but remember this Premier has delegated authority, some of his executive authority to even departments that are led by different MECs. Although different committees will be responsible for that, but our interest will be to check as to how is the Premier holding his own executive accountable. So we hold him and his office accountable, including his administration, but also how he deals with issues of departments, including the Gauteng Provincial Legislature, the Office of the Speaker, including, the institution, which is the Gauteng Provincial Legislature. So in short, this is what we do as a committee.
And talking about the Premier, Premier Lesotho has been unapologetic in terms of promoting, governance and improving public safety, as well as, promoting the development of municipalities and townships. That resonates a lot in most of, his public utterances. Is this achievable, though, with concerns around the vetting of some of the officials as raised by your committee?
Well, because there's a political will, it can be achievable. But what we still need to scrutinize is whether there is a buy-in from his administration, because you can have a goal that you want to achieve, which is, when we ask the Premier, it's informed by the electorate, by the citizens of Gauteng, by what is happening within the environment under which we perform. It's not like a plan that came from him dreaming only, but it's because that office is responsible to respond to the issues that are raised by the people. So if that there is a will and the implementation is done, that can be achieved. But remember also, there should be a partnership with the people, because I think the issue of crime for me, I always argue and say, you can build police stations in every street corner, but if we still have the shops that will buy stolen goods and all, that will never be achievable. So what it means is that they need to also go out and talk to the citizens of this country, of this province in particular, to say, be responsible, buy in. This is what we want to achieve for you and for our own sake. But if there's no buy-in, but also from the administration that is supposed to be actually assisting the Premier to drive that, it will be a futile exercise. And I think the issue that we are raising, and it's something that I will be meeting with the permanent delegates to the NCOP to also ask the President, because the state institution that is responsible for the vetting of officials is there. The Premier has done his best to say, I'm raising this particular matter, but the delays that are happening on the other side, that is not the responsibility of the Premier. I am not sure at this stage as to how far has the Premier engaged the President, but we'll ask our NCOP delegates to even ask the President when they're sitting there in Parliament.
Interestingly, that was going to be my next question, to say, for this issue to be resolved, is it up to the state security agencies?
Yes.
And have you set a deadline on it, or it's up to the NCOP, as you say?
Well, we have set a deadline for the Premier to come back to us to tell us exactly what is the action plan that he has taken. But also want our permanent delegates to also ask the same question to the President, and we set the deadline. And if there are challenges, we want to understand what are those challenges and what is it that they'll be doing to resolve those challenges, and what timelines to be given to us. We don't want to dictate, because we don't understand the nature of the problems that they're encountering. So that working together, they should ensure that those challenges are actually dealt with. But what also worries us is those officials that have not even tried to even apply. And there should be consequence management for those, because you must start. At least those that have started, it shows that they understand. But those that have not even started, that is where we want to pressurize the Premier to ensure that there is consequence management.
Another matter, Honourable Mekgwe, that has was raised by your committee about the Office of the Premiers, the minimal progress on procurement spending, for businesses owned by persons with disabilities. I believe that there's 0.01% achievement during this quarter. The target was 7%. I mean, what's the strategy to resolve this?
Well, for us, is to ensure that they mobilize, they go to institutions that are working with people that, have or are differently abled. That's how I call them. They must work with them, but also they must empower them, because if those businesses don't exist, it is the duty of government to empower people.
To create.
You can't just say people are not there or business are not there, but it is their duty. And it's something that we have actually raised with the Office of the Premier to say, how many of those have you empowered? Are you empowering them? What is progress? I mean, there will be basic things that ordinarily those people will know. So it's not an excuse. They should try to ensure that they up their game and work with those institutions.
And then there were projects which were described as vanity projects by critics in the period leading up to the elections. I mean, one of them is the Nasi Spani campaign. There's a Ndirisano outreach program, and Ekurhuleni Lava would fall under that. What is the official feedback from your committee in terms of the impact of these programs, and if there were any targets achieved?
Yeah. Well, I think in terms of the targets, the Office of the Premier reported that they've overachieved achieved in terms of the numbers. But all what we still need to do is to check the quality of those that they've employed, whether what they are employed to do, are they doing. So what we need to do as an oversight committee is to even go to sites where these people are working just to check. Why am I talking about this? As you know, if you were to go to a local government space or a municipal government space, at times you will see people baking in the sun. They're employed to clean the streets.
But they're sitting.
The streets are dirty. Find them sleeping under a tree next to where there is illegal dumping. So we don't know whether these people that are employed through the Nasispan Crash Nolova, is it working? Are those people, active where in the space where they're employed? But I will know that many of those that we might have in our different spaces interacted with, it has changed their lives. People are able to bring food into the table. Their lives are changing. Others are even saying we're able to buy things for our children. We don't have to, especially young women, we don't have to depend on the social grant. We're just hoping that we need to sustain this program because it will, if it solves the basic problems of our people, then it means it is working.
On the oversight committee on the Premier's office and the legislature OCPOL, the office of the Premier had set a deadline for, this is I believe for the last financial year, to complete the live esidimeni payment process. Do you believe the office is moving towards concluding this?
Well, the report that we have, and it's out there in the public domain, is that in terms of their plans and the information that they had, they are moving towards that. But we all know that at times when you reach this, it's a moving target. When people see money, they will always raise an issue, but it also dependent on the issues that are raised by the courts, which obviously are beyond the spectrum of the Premier. Because if the courts say, here's a person or a family member of a deceased person, pay them so much, the office of the Premier should be geared towards ensuring that they close that. But in terms of what is on their table, I think they will be moving towards closure. Yeah.
Do you think the public is sufficiently engaged through programs of the Office of the Premier?
Well, not so much. They know the Premier as a person because our Premier is so active. But I don't understand that they understand exactly what that office does. Hence the issues of more stakeholder engagement. So that you know the office more than the person, because let us suppose tomorrow I am the Premier. I might not be as proactive as
he is,
as him, and people will not have an interest. So it's because maybe the public figure that is there is able to interact through the media and throughout. But what is important, it is the institution of governance that should be known by the people. While it is also important that even the person that leads should be a person that is proactive. And as a committee, we will insist, because stakeholder engagement, that's why even the people with disabilities might not be able to access that office, because maybe they don't even know where the office is located. They don't even know what we know. All what people want is to be assisted, but the how part might not be there. So they need to up their game in terms of the Rasana program instead of other programs that they have, the imbizos and so forth, to ensure that we educate the public. Remember, our democracy is still young. 30 years is nothing. Before 1994, well, it might not have been the same structure that we have today, but people were not engaged. The young people, I don't think that they know how to engage governance. So we need to encourage, go out there. But working with municipalities, because municipalities have a platform of ward committees, they have the platforms of mayors. That should actually, there should be a synergy between what the Premier and what the mayors are doing, because that is just one platform. irrespective of who leads in local government, we should work together.
And can you talk to us about the response to House resolutions passed by the committee on the legislature?
Well, when we took office in terms of this committee, there was only one House resolution that we had to follow as a committee, and that resolution has been dealt with. Including now, we had a resolution that we just passed, and the Office of the Premier responded on time. I think it was now in September. So we close all the resolutions that we have. But I think the legislature should actually ensure that, because remember, while we oversight the Office of the Premier, we also oversight the work that we do ourselves as committees. We know that there are outstanding resolutions with regard to the Gauteng Provincial Legislature, and we have an interest to say those things should be actually finalized. That's why in our agenda, every time when we have a meeting, there's an item that says checking of House resolutions, and those House resolutions, not only of the committee but of the Gauteng Provincial Legislature, should be flighted there so that we actually monitor whether those resolutions are implemented and the impact as well of those resolutions.
Understanding and appreciating the role of the Gauteng Provincial Legislature, when you look ahead, what sort of legacy would you like to leave in terms of the role that you play in relation to improving accountability, governance, and just generally impacting and improving the lives of the people of Gauteng?
Yeah, firstly, for the public to be able to use the Office of the Premier, use the Gauteng Provincial Legislature, I think for me, part of educating the citizens, because it's one thing that is in my heart, I really love, because you can't say because those that are in the political area are the ones that are more user-friendly or using the institutions of governance properly. But even ordinary citizens, when the person passes in, they must say, this is the Office of the Premier, this is the Gauteng Provincial Legislature, we want to come in there. What is it? They must have an interest, like they go to an ordinary shop where fish and chips are sold. And I think for me that's important. But also issues of people with disabilities, because those people are vulnerable groups. You know, when I was still the Speaker, I started a sector parliament called Commercial Sex Workers. People laughed at me and said, hey, we are too ambitious. Mm. I am happy because I'm sure about a week or 2 weeks ago, you will notice that there was this young man, Sviso Mkhwanazi, who was sentenced. When that issue emerged, I ran to the courts. We spoke to some of the NGOs that are helping. We said, can you provide lawyers for the families of these deceased people? I was happy. I was laughing when last week I heard that this man has been sentenced to a longer sentence. So those are some of the, because many a times people don't regard commercial sex workers as citizens. Hence, our constitution respect those people. But other sector parliaments as well, they need to be strengthened. It's a pity that there's legislature, for June, August, there was not a sector parliament, because you also teach young people to be citizens of tomorrow, to be leaders of tomorrow. I'll be turning 60 next month. One day I want to hand over a baton. Where am I going to hand over a baton if we don't develop young people today? So those are some of the leaders that want to, and I'm going to push. Other people might say because you're the Speaker, maybe you're pushing, but I pushed there. I tried, and even now those things must be pushed. But if not, the current Speaker must tell us what is the leaders that they want to live, and we're going to be working together. We're not going to undermine any other person, but we're going to ensure that these institutions are respected, irrespective as to who leads. It's not our institutions. These are the institutions of the citizens of Gauteng, and they must be used for what they're meant to in terms of the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa.
When the Premier took a decision to take the opening of the legislature to Gauteng. What was your response or the response of the committee?
Well, you will know that this year we also went to Nasrec, and it's 30 years of our democracy. The first meeting when the Premier then was Dr. Sekgole, has his first address in Nasrec. Taking SOPA to Nasrec for me was even more exciting. But going back to Ekurhuleni, that's where I come from. I was even more excited because going to communities where the majority of citizens are, and those people can't actually access Johannesburg, the city center, because they don't have transport, but people will be able to say, oh, so we are recognized. So for me, I think it was very exciting. But you will know that in 2014, even the then Premier took SOPA to Thokoza, which is just away from Gauteng, the home of those citizens or leaders that actually fought against apartheid. Semtuli Yomampeta Kowa, who was an organizer in the 9 August 1956 march. And at some stage, the majority, you will know that leading up to 1994, the people of Gauteng suffered. The people of the then Eastern suffered through the violence that was there. So at times we need to remember them. But also in the previous years, this legislature has been going to different regions. And I think we should actually continue doing so, because ordinary citizens must also actually have a feel of what state of the province is all about, but also be there when things are happening right in their doorstep. Because that is when the Premier presents the plan of the people, of the citizens in the next financial year.
Chairperson of the Oversight Committee on the Office of the Premier's Office and the Legislature, also known as OCPOL, Honorable Ntombi Mekgwe. We're delighted that you took the time to speak to us, and all the best with all the plans going forward.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.